if you feel like it was a dirty play or whatever, I would do the same thing. It's your teammates. You got to have their back. But I don't think it was a dirty play at all. And it was funny how Rodgers talked about how the other safety, James, I can't even pronounce his last name, number 32, came up and they actually had like a sophisticated talk about
Yeah,
what
they
he
made
told him. He was like, he can't go low. I mean, he can't go high. He had to do it. It's a big third down in the game.
yeah.
But into that game, I thought an interesting stat was that Baltimore, 29 home games, they won 26 of the 29 home games going into that game. So now they're 26-30. But it was a tough game. I mean, there's a lot of questionable calls. You get the ball back with 19 seconds left, no timeouts, and I don't know what your plan is there necessarily, John Harbaugh. I mean, you're not expecting a fumble or prepare
You're
to get
referring
up
to in the
like
second
that.
half, or the first half, right?
The first half, going into the second half. I just think you run the ball and go to half down 3-0 against a very good football team. I mean, that was a questionable thing. I mean, it was a tough game. I thought, it was one of those games that we had our chances. We didn't capitalize. The two Rodgers fumbles inside of their 20, we didn't get either one of them. It's a tough game, but, better team won that day.
I know for me, having a non-biased look at this game, I was really impressed with both defenses, especially the Packers without Clay Matthews.
Yeah.
And I was also very impressed with the Packers, their run game. I mean, they're down their top two receivers, and their game plan has totally transformed, and they're sticking with it. And I think as the season goes on, if the Packers continue this balance, to me, they could be the NFC favorite if everyone get healthy.
I agree. They've just gotten tougher. Defensive line, the offensive line, they're just they're shutting down the run and they're being able to run it. And that's how you have to win in this league. And especially with Rodgers, people kind of focusing so much on him, and maybe he's not the sharpest he's been in years past. He's still the same old Rodgers, I believe, but you got to be able to run the ball and take some pressure off of him, and that helps a lot.
Yeah, it was surprising going back to that defense. Without Clay Matthews, the heart and soul of that defense, and they played very well. Baltimore's O-line did not look good once again. I thought after that second half we should have been throwing the ball a lot more, and then we started to open it up, and Joe Flacco was able to move the ball a little bit downfield. So that was good to see at the end of the game. I thought Joe played a good game through all the adversity. He was just calm in that pocket and still kept going at it.
And I think the Baltimore take from this is their defense is going to keep them in games. Can their run game get started the second half of the season? And can another wide receiver step up behind Torrey Smith and be a constant threat?
It was good to see Jacoby Jones finally back from his injury, and he really looked good for his opener.
I think if that happens, Baltimore will compete for the AFC North title this year. Now, the game of the week, possibly with the best ending, the New Orleans at New England game. I had the privilege of recapping this game, and all I can say is I'm not a huge fan of Tom Brady personally, but I cannot deny him the praise he deserved this week. His top 5 wide receivers are gone from last year, and the New England defense is actually relevant. They held Drew Brees under 50% completion percentage. That does not happen very often. And Brady was spreading the love. 8 different receivers got involved, and that big catch by that free agent rookie Tompkins was just it was a clutch play. So the only thing negative I have from this game for either team, because I think both these teams really showed a lot to me, was the New England fans. You guys should be ashamed. 2:40 left in the game, 2 timeouts, 2-minute warning, and you're leaving the stadium when it's a one-score game. Like, come on, you are the East Coast. East Coast fans are supposed to be the best, or that's what we always hear. But that's just really sad, and you guys should be ashamed of yourselves.
I mean, we're talking too much about the Patriots, in my opinion. I think the Saints gave them that game. You get the first time back, Tom Brady throws an interception, and then you have another chance to run out the clock, and you don't do it again. It was just bad game management. Nobody would be talking about Brady right now if the game would have ended after he threw that pick when they got the ball back. It's frustrating. The Saints lost that game. They had it. They had it in their pocket, and they gave it up.
You are right, but I think many people thought that especially with Gronk not playing this week again. I think many people thought New Orleans would have an easier time, so you have to give them a little bit of credit there. And I agree with you with the time management. I know I had said this to you earlier in the week, Spence. I don't understand when you have a quarterback like a Breeze or a Rodgers or a Brady or a Manning, why do you feel like you have to hand the ball 3 times in a row, to try to waste the clock? I mean, you can mix it up and throw a safe pass to try to pick up a first down. I don't get that thinking.
You can't give a great quarterback like Tom Brady a mulligan. After he throws an interception, you can't just give him another opportunity. I mean, he's going to take advantage of it eventually. You can't just do that.
Right. And now, Spencer, could you give us a little recap of the overtime thriller in Buffalo where the Bengals played the Bills?
Yeah, I'd love to. People have been talking about Cincinnati's defense. I really personally don't think they're as good as everyone thinks they are. Buffalo Bills bring up a practice QB in Thad Lewis, and he brings them and sends them in the overtime against Cincinnati. I felt like Buffalo had the chance to win that game, and it came down to the end, but it was a tough loss for them. Good win, I guess, for Cincinnati, but gosh, I don't think they're as good as everyone thinks they are.
My question to you is, what do you think Cincinnati's ceiling is for this year? How high do you think they can get?
What do you mean? Playoffs. That's about. I don't see them as.
Okay.
I don't really see them as a contender. I mean, Dalton has been in his first 2 years. He's been way more consistent. This year, he's been one game sky high, and next game way low. He's very inconsistent. He's been turning the ball over a lot, and I think you can count on a couple turnovers going against him.
So you're saying their ceiling probably is playoffs and maybe a one-and-done situation probably again.
Yeah, even if they do get in the playoffs.
I agree. I could see him getting in, but if they win one, I'd say that's a good showing for this team.
Okay. Brock Malik, you had the privilege of recapping the Seattle-Tennessee game, 3:25 game here Central Time. What did you see from that game and the 12th man?
I did have the privilege of recapping this game. Fitzpatrick had 2 picks. I think if Locker was healthy in this game, the Titans would have probably won. The Titans' defense is really good. They got a turnover. It was kind of a weird play on a special teams player, really, not even defense. But that's how they had their one and only touchdown. So it's really tough, especially on the road, to go in and win a game when your offense doesn't account for a touchdown. So that defense was able to at least kind of keep them around, but Fitzpatrick just turned the ball over and they didn't have a shot with him back there.
Okay. And my one takeaway from the Seattle team this year is, do you think Seattle is capable of winning games where they have to put up 30-plus points? They haven't really shown it yet this year. Do you think they have that capability?
It doesn't seem like it, but if I recall last year, the playoffs, they were able to do that, to put up big points when they had to. So far, it doesn't look like it, but things can change pretty quick in the NFL. So time will tell.
I think you're right, and I think Harbin coming back here real quick, I think we're going to get to see their full arsenal here really soon. So
yeah.
I recapped my second game of the week, and it was the Monday night game in San Diego, where Andrew Luck got to make his Monday night primetime debut. For me, Indianapolis disappointed me. They took a step back. It all came down to third down conversions. I know in the second half, San Diego had a huge drive where they just kept on converting those third downs. They ate up 38 minutes out of the 60 minutes in this game, so they possessed the ball. Matthews had over 100 yards rushing, and we all know San Diego isn't known for their running game, so Indy just couldn't get him off the field, and
it was tough. Indy was banged up. I mean, there was at one point where they had a third-string safety in there, and I think 2 second-string linebackers in there. They were real banged up.
Right. And anytime you come away with field goals on the road, no matter who you're playing, it's going to be a tough road to hike. So that's my takeaway from the Monday night game. Our new segment this week, the AFC West. we have our bullseye on you. Our segment this week is titled The Pursuit of Perfection, where we will be telling you when each one of these teams, Kansas City and Denver, will be losing their first game and what their final record will be at the end of the season. We're going to start with the surprise Kansas City Chiefs. They started they finished 2-14 last year. They are now 6-0 with the new Andy Reid at the helm, Alex Smith at their quarterback, and a tenacious D. Brock, when will Kansas City lose their first game, and what will be their record at the end of the year?
I have them losing their first game pretty late. Week 12 against San Diego, I think, is their first loss. They play Denver, San Diego, and then Denver again. And I think they're going to have a couple back-to-back losses there to make them 13-3. But I think, Week 12, they're going to be able to beat Denver the first time they play them in Week 11, and Week 12 is going to be the week.
So my question for you, at 13-3, will that be good enough for home field advantage, or will they be a 5 seed because of Denver?
It will be a 5 seed.
Wow. That really stinks when you're in a division like that, and you're going to have to go on the road wild card weekend just because. Okay.
Yeah.
Spencer, what is your outlook on the Kansas City Chiefs season?
Let me just give you a list of the rest of their remaining opponents here. And I think the only two teams that they really are the only two games they have to worry about is Denver. And they got to play them 2 times still this year. But if you look at, they got Texans this week. They got the Browns. They got Bills, Chargers, Redskins, Raiders, Colts, Chargers. I mean, other than that Colts game, I don't see them losing a lot of games besides the Broncos. I would put them at 14-2.
Wow. But when did they lose their first game?
They lose their first game when they go to Denver, and that's the first matchup. I think it is Week 12.
I think it's a little earlier. Is it Week 12, Brock?
I think it's Week 11. It's Week 11.
Week 11, then. Yeah.
14-2. I'm going to ask you the same question, Spence. Do they have home field advantage?
No, he said 12-4.
Oh, he did.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
No. 14-2.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yep.
Does that secure them home field advantage, or are they a 14-2 number 5 seed?
I think they're a 14-2 number 5 seed because I think Denver runs the table, except they split it with Kansas City. I think Denver will win at home, and I think Kansas City and Arrowhead will beat Denver. And I think Broncos will go 15-1.
So safe to say you two are buying the Kansas City success early on in the year. I'm going to be a little bit more skeptical. I think they suffer their first loss this week. I know it's a little bit of a bold prediction, but I feel like Houston's going to have a good showing. Kansas City has to win their games in a grinded-out fashion, and I think Houston is capable of doing that, even though Schaub is out. I'm taking a little bit
Texans are starting the rookie QB.
Right. So I
don't see that against that Kansas City defense.
I think Kansas City suffers their first loss this week, and I think they finish the season 11-5 because I think Denver, they could possibly lose both of those games because I don't know if they can win these shootout games. And San Diego, with Phillip Rivers playing like he is, that'll be a tough game. And Indianapolis, I think, will also be another good game. So I think they're going to be a wild card berth at 11-5.
I can see it too. They could go either way, I
think their defense is just so good that a lot of these teams are going to have a hard time, except for Denver, against them.
Speaking of Denver, Spence, led by Peyton Manning, who may be a superhero, we're still debating that on this show. Where